up, you guys? If you are new to my channel, I'm Shantae, and right now I am going to be growing some microgreens. So I'm going to be growing 1 tray of kale, 1 tray of clover, and I'm going to be doing 2 trays of cilantro. So I am starting with my kale microgreens, and I'm only going to be adding 28 grams. So that is 1 ounce of seeds. So now I am about to easily distribute my seeds on top of my soil. Using this seasoning shaker will prevent so many seeds clumping up in one area. These kale seeds are so small. Okay, so I got my kale seeds into the medium. So now I am about to plant my clover seeds. And I am doing 25 grams of my clover seeds. So I am at 13 grams right now. Okay, that's it. I'm at 25 grams. Okay, so time to plant my cilantro seeds. So for my cilantro, I am only adding 10 grams per tray. Okay, so I am at 10 grams. So now I'm adding my 10 grams of cilantro seeds to my second tray. So I'm going to top water all of them, and then I'm going to bottom water all of them as well. So I'm just misting the top, making sure the soil doesn't get so soaked, but make sure it is wet enough for them to properly germinate. And I am going to be checking on the soil and making sure that it's not too wet, so I won't overwater any of them, because too much water and a lack of airflow causes mold. And I did not soak any of my seeds, because sometimes soaking the seeds before planting them can cause them to mold as well while growing, and I'm trying to prevent mold. Ooh, got some sunlight coming out right now. Okay, now I'm just going to bottom water them with 1 cup of water. Okay, so now I am adding my labels onto. Okay, so now I'm just gonna stack these. There's no holes in this one. So this is the one where I add the water, and this is the one where I put the soil and plant the seeds in, so that the seeds can easily absorb the water from the bottom, and I don't have to constantly water from the top. So that's the last thing that I wanted to share for today, and I will see you on day 2 of the germination. So day 2 of the kale, as you can see, their seed coat is starting to break off a little bit. So here is day 2 for the cilantro. So here is day 2 of the clover seeds. Here is the kale for day 3 of germination. The soil is still moist. I watered them last night, so I'm not about to water them right now, and I'm going to add them back onto the rack with the weight on top. So here is day 3 of the clover seeds. The soil is very moist, so I'm not going to water them right now. I don't see any mold anywhere. It looks great, so I'm about to add them back onto the rack without any weight on top because they have passed that part of germination. Here is day 3 of the cilantro seeds. Their seed coats have not broken off yet. The soil is still moist and I don't have to water them right now. The seeds in tray 2 are planted deeper into the soil than tray number 1. So this will be a nice experiment to see which one have grown the best during harvest time. And that's all for today. So here's the cilantro on day 4. They are not looking like they're properly germinating, but I'm gonna let them keep going and see what happens. And here is the kale on day 4, and their seed coats are breaking off and their germination process going very well, and the clover is just bloomy and they are growing pretty fast. So the clover seeds will be going into blackout so they can stretch and reach for light, and the kale microgreens are going back on the rack with the lid on. So it is day 5 and my cilantro microgreens have not broken off their seed coats yet, so they will be going back onto the rack with the weight on to continue germinating. So it is day 6 and the cilantro seeds will continue being in germination. Here is the kale microgreens on day 6. I am going to add them back on the rack with the lid on for one more day, and they will be going into blackout on day 8. So it is day 6 and the clover microgreens are in their day 1 of light. Here is the kale microgreens on day 7. They will be going back on the rack with the lid on. I don't need to water them. I watered them a few days ago. I'll add some water on day 8 when they will be going into blackout. So they are going back on the rack with the lid on. Here is my clover microgreens on day 7. They are going back under the light. The soil doesn't need any water, so I'm not going to water them until day 8. I'll give it another day. And here is my cilantro. This is a slow bolting cilantro. So it takes about 28 days before it even gets to harvest time. So I'll be giving an update on this one around day 15. So today is the last update for now, and hopefully by day 15 they begin to shed their seed coats. And I haven't watered the soil in a few days and it still doesn't need any water. I am about to water my microgreens today. They are on day number 9. So I just gave them a little bit of bottled water and they're about to go on the rack so they can finish growing. Kale is going back on the rack into blackout time. Today they will be out of blackout time tomorrow on day 10. And I am just going to add my clover back on the rack under the light just like this. I'm adding my kale and my cilantro seeds is going back on the rack with the weight on. One thing about my cilantro seeds is that they are not absorbing water really fast, so I don't have to water them every single day, so that makes the process easy. So it is day 11 and the kale is in day 2 of light. Day 11 and the clover microgreens is just looking so beautiful. It is day 12. So this is tray 1, which was the tray that had the seeds on top of the soil. And here is tray 2 for the cilantro on day 12. And this is the tray that had most of the seeds buried a little deeper in the soil. And honestly, I feel like this tray is looking better than the first one, because most of the seeds are buried further at the bottom and their sprouts had to come up out of the soil, and they're not just on top of the soil. So I think this one will be the best one actually. Still don't see all of them coming out yet, so I will leave the weight on the cilantro trays until day 15. The soil is still moist, doesn't need any water, don't want to overwater it. It is day 13 and right now I'm about to harvest my kale and clover microgreens. Both trays turned out to be very beautiful. I had no problems growing these greens. The only thing about my tray of kale microgreens is that the tray is just not as full as I wanted it to be. So I'm gonna make sure that my next tray is far more full than this one. But when it comes to my clover microgreens, they are beautiful. The tray was full as I wanted it to be, and I probably waited one day too long of harvest because they're falling over. And I'm just gonna put them both in the same bowl. So here they are. I'm about to store these in the fridge because I'm adding them into my juice tomorrow. And when it comes to my cilantro greens, I will be giving an update on those on the day I put them into the light. So they will not be going into blackout, because by the time they're ready to go into the light, their stems will be long enough to just go right under the light. So here is the cilantro tray number 1. This is the one that had the seeds on top of the soil, and they are in day 1 of light, and today is day 16. Here is the cilantro tray number 2, the one that had the seeds buried a little deeper into the soil, and today is day 16. So far, this tray number 1 is the best one with the seeds on top. At first I thought it wasn't the best one, but now I see that the seeds are totally fine just being planted on top of the soil. They don't have to be buried deep inside. Maybe tray number 2 will have some difficulties during harvest. So I thought tray number 1 was losing this battle, but they're actually winning. So that's all for day 16. So it is day 29. Here is my cilantro. Here is tray number 1. They have the seeds planted on top a little bit more than the second tray. Here is tray number 2. These seeds did not germinate. only a little bit grew. So here is the result of my cilantro microgreens. I only have one tray here because the second tray just didn't really grow at all. But this is the tray that had most of the seeds on top, so this was tray number 1. And these trays did not grow the way I expected. They did not grow the way I wanted to be. So far, it was my biggest failure of growing microgreens. I was so disappointed in these cilantro microgreens. So I went and researched these slow bolting microgreen seeds, and I learned that I was supposed to break the seed coats off of them before planting them, and also soaking them overnight. So I am about to prepare one more cilantro tray with following every direction that I learned so far of how to really get some beautiful results from these microgreens. Also, my plans for the future when it comes to growing cilantro, I will not be using the slow bolting variety anymore. So I'm just going to be using the leisure split from now on, but I will use the rest of my seeds to properly grow these cilantro microgreens because I don't give up. And microgreens are not this difficult to grow. But when it comes to these slow bolting cilantro microgreen seeds, it's like you got to go in a whole other direction besides the simple, easy form of growing microgreens. So all hope is not lost. I'm about to plant a whole new tray right now. So I got my cilantro seeds, and I have my compostable, biodegradable plastic bag. And what I'm gonna do first is add a piece of parchment paper inside the plastic bag, just to prevent the seeds from causing lots of holes in there. So I'm just gonna add some parchment paper. Because these seeds are really hard, so, well, all seeds are hard, right? Okay, so I got my seeds in the bag. Let me show you because this looks nice. So the goal here is to crack those seed coats off the cilantro, and they will be easier to germinate, and that makes the process of them germinating and growing easier and quicker. And it also prevents them from giving me bad results like it did the first time. So I'm going to use my roller pin right here to just roll it against the bag and just start cracking those seed coats. So I'm just going to crush it and make it look like it's ruined, but it's not going to be ruined. It's actually just going to be properly ready for planting. Oh my gosh, you guys, these seeds are starting to smell so good. So now I have crushed most of these seeds. I don't think I've gotten to every single seed, so I'm just gonna start rolling it a little bit more before I let it soak in water overnight. Now I'm just rolling the seeds without the parchment paper inside, so I could try to crack the seed coats of more seeds. So I'm just gonna add these into my jar. So I got some spring water. Just gonna fill this jar. So that is all for part 1 of growing microgreens. I will be sharing the results of my new tray of slow bolting cilantro in part 2. But thank you so much for joining me today in this video. If you like it, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to smash that like button and check the links below, because I have a link to my website where you can check out my recipes. You can print them out. Also, you can read about growing microgreens if you need to print anything out from this video. So until next time.